The movie begins with a shot of a big house in an isolated place, far from the city. We see a woman named Danny fixing up the place, as it is still in the process of renovation. While she walks away, we notice a camera that is automatically taking pictures. The scene then cuts to an asylum, where we see an orderly named Ivan, who seems very strict and mean to the patients. Next, Danny locates a spot in the house with a slight network signal and calls her psychiatrist husband, Dr. Ted, who works at the same asylum. She tells him that she intends to stay at their new house tonight. During this, Danny expresses concern for her sister Darcy, who's dealing with health issues. After hanging up the phone, she tries to contact Darcy to invite her to dinner tomorrow, but the latter doesn't answer. So, Danny leaves a voicemail for her sister, stating, "We are connected." The scene cuts to nighttime, where Danny sets up a tent inside the house to rest. She then goes out to get her jacket from the car and hears some strange noises around her. This terrifies her, so she immediately rushes back inside and locks the door. Moments later, a strange man named Olin appears outside, and we notice he has a prosthetic eye. He informs Danny that he saw someone enter the house while she was outside for a brief moment. Olin warns her that she's not safe and requests to be let in, but Danny refuses. She mentions that her husband will return soon, but Olin says the doctor works the night shift. He turns out to be Ted's patient, who has just been discharged, and he claims that he overheard them through the walls. However, Danny refuses to open the door for a stranger and threatens to call the cops if he doesn't leave. This still doesn't deter Olin, and he advises her to do it for her own safety. But she reveals that she's lost her phone, and Olin doesn't have one either. Just then, Danny hears some noises inside the house and begins to believe Olin is telling the truth. And so, she carefully approaches the door and prepares to unlock it. The scene then shifts to a few days later. We see Declan Barrett, a patient at the asylum, drawing some sketches in his room. He suddenly hears some strange noises outside his door, which frighten him. He hides under his bed, and when the noises stop, he cautiously steps outside to investigate. But to his horror, he discovers a dead body in the next room, its head smashed to pieces. He picks up a prosthetic eye and realizes the victim is none other than Olin. The scene then cuts to a year later, where Ted visits Danny's twin sister, Darcy, who is blind. She owns a store where she sells haunted trinkets and cursed antiques. Darcy then shows Ted an antique bell that she claims to be haunted. She explains that there was once a mean bellboy who used to hate his job. One day, while helping a drunken guest, he was pushed down the stairs and passed away. Apparently, the bellboy's spirit became attached to the bell, and if they ring the bell, the dead bellboy will come running. Ted refuses to believe in such supernatural phenomena and suggests they ring the bell to see what happens, but Darcy warns him that the last two people who did so were found dead. Here, we learn that Danny passed away on that fateful night, and the cops blamed Olin for her murder. Ted then tells Darcy that he came to see her because a patient named Declan Barrett died last week of a heart attack. While clearing out his belongings, they shockingly came across Olin's prosthetic eye. He asks Darcy why she wants the eye, so she explains that she wants to know what went through Olin's mind when he killed her sister. After that, she suggests that they should meet for dinner next week, which is also Danny's death anniversary. Ted agrees and suddenly reveals that he's dating someone named Yana. This upsets Darcy, as she believes he has moved on too quickly. But he explains that Yana is a pharmaceutical rep at his hospital and was there for him when Danny died. After Ted leaves, Darcy returns to her apartment and listens to the last voicemail left by Danny, which says, "We are connected." She also mentioned that she had set up a time-lapse camera to detect any paranormal activity but had not found anything yet. Darcy then touches the prosthetic eye and is shocked to experience glimpses from Olin's life. After learning the truth of what happened, she returns to her store and retrieves a sacred trunk. A week later, we see Ted in his country house, where he's getting ready to leave for work in the evening. An annoyed Yana complains about him working night shifts and claims she can't sleep alone in the house. She then shows him Danny's camera, which still contains pictures of her and Ted. But she also shows a mysterious image of Danny standing behind a door from a random photo taken 2 nights ago. Ted dismisses it as double exposure, but Yana claims to have seen glimpses of Danny around the house. As a result, she thinks it's just a lack of sleep and decides to stay in her city apartment until Ted starts working regular hours. Next, Yana shows Ted a wooden trunk that has been sent by Darcy as a gift. Before they can figure out what it is, Darcy unexpectedly arrives at the house. The couple is surprised to see her, and Darcy reveals that Ted had invited her to dinner a week ago. He explains that he's heading to work and Yana will be leaving for the city, so they won't be able to have dinner together. But Darcy states that since she's already here, she would like to stay even if she's alone. Following this, Darcy opens the trunk she sent and reveals that it belonged to her mother. Ted doesn't seem to like the gift but pretends to be pleased and thanks her. While she heads to the bathroom, Yana expresses her annoyance at the unexpected arrival of Darcy. Yana is also upset about the gift, but Ted assures her that they will dispose of it as soon as Darcy leaves. After he departs, Yana closes the trunk, and Darcy explains that a traditional gift for a couple's 5th wedding anniversary is something made of wood. She mentions that this gift was given to her parents on their 5th anniversary by a witch. But Yana rudely responds that she and Ted are not married yet and urges Darcy to take back her gift. Elsewhere at the asylum, Ted reviews Declan's file and discovers strange sketches of a wooden mannequin attacking Olin. Returning to the house, Yana is preparing to leave for the city, but she notices the creepy wooden mannequin has been taken out of the trunk. Yana asks why she took it out, but Darcy insists that she didn't. This annoys Yana, and she attempts to leave, but can't find her car keys anywhere. With no other option, she is forced to stay at the house. In the next scene, the two sit down at the dinner table, with the creepy wooden mannequin nearby. Darcy inquires as to how long Yana and Ted have known each other, and the latter replies that it has been 2 years. She clarifies that they only started dating after his wife passed away. Yana then inquires about Darcy's profession, to which she reveals that she runs an antique store and can do readings as well. She explains that by touching objects that have come into close contact with the skin, she can find out a lot about the person's life. Their conversation then shifts to Danny's murder, and Yana expresses her fear of being alone at home, worried that another of Ted's patients will come and kill her. However, Darcy claims that her sister would not have been so foolish to let a stranger into the house in the middle of the night. She then confidently asserts that Olin did not murder her sister. Following this, the scene cuts back to the night of the incident, and it turns out that Danny still refuses to open the door despite hearing strange noises. Olin informs her that he will go to the city to call the police and advises her to stay alert near the door. He urges her to run away from the house if she hears any suspicious sounds. After he leaves, Danny uses a flashlight to search for her camera and hides in the tent. But to her horror, while going through the photos, she notices an image of a masked man inside her home. Danny begins to panic and opens the tent to see if he's nearby. And then all of a sudden, the masked man appears directly in front of her and immediately kills her with a hammer. In the present, Yana reveals that Olin was convicted of beating his mother to death and was locked up in the psych ward. But Darcy explains that his mother was abusive towards him and had already blinded him in one eye. When she tried to take his other eye, he had to defend himself and ended up killing her. Darcy adds that she would have done the same if she were in his situation. Hearing this, a confused Yana asks, if Olin didn't kill Danny, then who did? In the asylum, Ivan questions Ted why he didn't mention that his wife had a blind twin. The doctor asks how he found out, so Ivan reveals that he recently went to an antique store and almost had a heart attack when he saw someone who looked exactly like Danny there. Just then, Ted receives a call from an irritated Yana, who says she is stuck in the house with Darcy because she can't find her keys. She reveals that Darcy told her the murderer of her sister is actually Ivan from their hospital. Upon hearing this, Ted can't believe what he heard and thinks Darcy is not well, so he suggests Yana lock herself in the bedroom and promises to return as soon as possible. After hanging up the phone, Yana is startled to see the wooden mannequin staring at her, causing her to drop and break her phone. But seconds later, she notices the mannequin in its normal position. Darcy is still dozing off at the table, so Yana approaches the mannequin and finds several holes in its head. Inside these holes, she discovers various strange objects. First, she finds a childhood photo of Danny and Darcy, followed by another picture of them as adults. She then discovers a tooth and a vial of blood, which scares her. Suddenly, Darcy stands up angrily and orders her to put the objects back inside. A terrified Yana complies and rushes to her bedroom. Meanwhile, Darcy sits near the mannequin and chants a spell before falling asleep again. In her bedroom, Yana begins watching old videos of Danny and Ted on the camera. The footage appears to be normal, but moments later, Yana is horrified to see Danny's ghost. She also notices Danny's ghost in the corner, asking her to run away. Yana then immediately proceeds downstairs and tries to awaken Darcy, but the latter remains asleep. The woman soon hears noises coming from the trunk, and when she looks inside, she finally finds her car keys. And so, she runs outside and again sees Danny's ghost at the door. Panicking, Yana eventually drives away from the haunted house. After some time, Ted returns to the house and discovers Darcy alone in a dark corner. He asks her where Yana is, and she cryptically responds that Danny scared her off. Ted then inquires about her claims regarding Danny's murder, and Darcy continues to insist that Ivan is the culprit. She confesses that she initially believed Olin was the murderer and took his life, so now she must pay for killing an innocent man. Upon hearing this, Ted says that Darcy might be hallucinating. He wonders how Ivan could have killed Danny when they never even met. But Darcy shockingly claims that he did so on Ted's orders. She says that Ted should have told Danny he no longer loved her and wanted a divorce instead of taking her life. In a flashback, we see Ted plotting his wife's murder with Ivan in his office. Ivan questions why he can't just divorce her, to which Ted explains that Danny loves him too much and will never be able to move on. Furthermore, if she learns about Yana, he will lose the house where he has invested all of his life savings. Ivan suggests waiting until the house is furnished so that the murder can be staged as a robbery, but Ted refuses to wait. Meanwhile, Olin overhears the conversation while eavesdropping on a vent in his cell. Realizing what the two are planning, he tries to get ahead of them and warn Danny. In the present, Darcy tells Ted that she originally planned to kill him but now believes it would be worse to expose him. She's going to see him lose everything, including his job, home, and girlfriend. But Ted vehemently denies her accusations and asks if she trusts Detective Peter, who was in charge of Danny's case. Darcy says she does, so Ted suggests she call Peter and explain everything she has just said. He claims that Peter will show her the evidence that proves Olin is the murderer. However, Ted claims that he doesn't have his phone number, so he will go to Peter's office and ask him to contact her. He places his phone on the table in front of her and asks her to pick it up when the detective calls. Following this, Ted exits the house while Darcy breaks down in tears, mourning her sister. But instead of meeting Detective Peter, he heads straight to his office and calls Darcy at home. We see the trapdoor in front of her is opened, and a flashback shows Ted opening the trapdoor earlier, knowing she is blind and will fall to her death. Unfortunately, Darcy rushes to answer the phone and falls downstairs. Ted, who still doesn't believe in supernatural phenomena, asks Ivan if he told Darcy anything, but the latter claims that he didn't speak with her at all. Ted then reveals that she has somehow found out, so he instructs Ivan to go to his house and finish her off. As soon as Ivan arrives at the house, he looks at the wooden mannequin and then finds Darcy lying on the floor. Turns out she is still alive. Ivan updates Ted on the situation, informing him that she won't survive much longer. He then tells the dying Darcy not to worry, as it's nearly over. At this point, Darcy suddenly raises her hand in the air and utters, "We are connected." Meanwhile, Ivan is about to leave when he hears some strange noises from downstairs, while Darcy is seen chanting some spells. Ivan decides to leave but comes across the wooden mannequin. The mannequin has suddenly come to life. Ivan runs back upstairs, and he tries to flee and jumps from the first floor but injures his leg in the process. The mannequin soon approaches him and grabs his head, intending to crush his skull. But at this moment, Darcy sees her sister watching her from the trapdoor and smiling. She then ends up passing away, which causes the wooden man to become motionless. In the next scene, we see Ivan, who has managed to survive, strapped to a bed at the asylum. Ted greets him and explains that due to his prior convictions, they can't allow him to be free. He then inquires about what happened at the house, and Ivan describes how the wooden mannequin pursued and attacked him. However, the doctor, who'll never believe this, claims that if it were true, he wouldn't have been able to drag the mannequin outside and burn it. Ivan then requests to see a priest so that he can confess all of his horrible crimes. He promises that he won't speak about Ted, but the latter points out that doing so would raise questions about him. It turns out that Ivan was once a patient, but he got better, and Ted employed him. The doctor fears that his reputation will be lost if people find out that he befriended a psychopath. After saying this, Ted exits the room and releases a dangerous cannibal patient. This guy doesn't waste any time in attacking Ivan and ends up devouring his smelly leg. Later, we see Ted returning to the house while listening to Yana's voicemail. She has decided to end their relationship. She also wonders how he can still live in the same house where two people died mysteriously. Upon his arrival, Ted finds a package sent from Darcy's store. Inside, he finds the bell that Darcy had claimed was haunted by the bellboy. Ted places it on the table and boldly presses the button, believing that the story is just a myth. Initially, nothing happens, and he begins laughing at the bell. Thus, we reach the end of this film. Thanks for watching. You can like this video to support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. See you in the next video. Goodbye.